Go out and just start meeting with people. Start developing a network, developing relationships. I tell people, just go find a local coffee shop that you can go sit at, hang around. I used to just set up shop there, and that was like my second office, and start developing a lot of the relationships there, and that'll really set you up for success. Because
Welcome back to the Art of Connecting podcast. This is your host, Haydynn Fike here, back with another episode. Today we have Collin Daniell with us. Collin is a financial advisor and has started his own advising firm as well. And how me and Collin met was through a mutual connection, Cole Hinkey, who I had coffee with and really kind of birthed my real estate meetup that I started. As soon as I met Cole, he connected me to 3 people, and Collin was one of those 3 people as soon as we walked out. So me and Collin got coffee together. We started having conversation. I was like, this is someone I need to have on my podcast. So thank you so much for coming on today. We're excited to have you. And how's it going?
hey man, thanks for having me. It's going great. Love doing podcasts and stuff like this, and just getting to share about some of the cool stuff we've been doing.
So I'd love to start with you just telling me about your background, like where you got started and maybe a little bit of the history.
Yeah. So kind of a funny story here. I tell people all the time that I've been around financial planning my whole life. I actually, from a young age, was telling people that I wanted to be a money doctor like my dad. I still need to coin that phrase. It needs to be like in my bio or something somewhere. I haven't done that yet. So my whole life, I've been around it. My dad's been a financial planner for about 33 years, somewhere around that time. And so it's really all I've ever known. And I didn't really realize the importance of that until I got married and I started talking about finances and this stuff. And then my wife would be like, what the heck are you talking about? And I'm like, wait, you don't know this stuff? And she's like, no, I don't think anybody knows this stuff. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, this is what I was ingrained with. This is kind of what I grew up and was raised with. So I feel like that's kind of been a really unique piece of my story that it's all I've ever really known. So kind of going back to the beginning, like I said, I told people I want to be a money doctor like my dad. And I was that kid that I just stuck with it. Like it was my dream. I looked up to my dad. I always wanted to do what he did, but obviously I had my own spin on it. And so, I get into high school, I remember, and I would go up to people and go, hey, you're going to be a client one day because I'm going to be a financial planner, and you're going to be a client. And hey, y'all are going to get married, by the way, and y'all are going to be clients of mine. And people are like, dude, what are you talking about? We're in high school. Like, we've got years till we got to figure out what career we're going to go into. Like, you're going to change your major 3 times. I'm like, no, this is what I'm going to do. I promise you. And funny enough, most of them are clients now. So, just really from an early age, I realized this is what I wanted to do, and I just stuck with it. So going into college, I was kind of not your typical student in that I was just honed in on, I want to be a financial planner. And the whole reason I was doing my classes and going through college was to graduate, make connections while I was there, but also to learn about the industry. So I would go back and forth from Cleveland, which I went to Lee University, and then I worked in Chattanooga at my dad's firm throughout college. So I kind of got that background experience, kind of behind the scenes stuff when I was in college.
So when you worked at your dad's firm, what was your position? Because I'm assuming you weren't a licensed financial advisor at that point.
Yeah, not licensed yet. I wanted to wait till I'd graduated, till I started getting all my certifications. So really, I'll be honest, I did the crap work. I was the office assistant. I took phone calls from clients. I sat at the front desk, greeted people coming in, which with my personality, I loved the people aspect of that because I got to meet a lot of his clients. I hated the computer filing and all that aspect of it because I just don't do well with sitting in one place for a long period of time. I like to get out and see people and talk and communicate and obviously and connect with people. So that part made me really realize I've got to hurry this up so I can become an advisor because I freaking hate this. I think it was really good for me to see the behind the scenes aspects of it and just honestly all the stuff that goes into it. Because I think it looks really glamorous from the outside. And then you realize there's a lot of intricacies here. There's a lot that goes into this, that's more than just seeing my dad take Fridays off from an early age and kind of create his own schedule. I'm like, oh, there's some hard work that comes into this. So I think that part of it was really good for me.
Yeah. And I think every position in any business has that aspect of there's crap work. There's this stuff
Right.
that nobody wants to do.
Yeah.
but it needs to be done. And I know in the real estate industry and event planning and even networking, like there's stuff like I need to update my CRM. I need to sit down for like 3 hours and sit there and put all this stuff in from the connections I made this last weekend.
Right. Well, it's part of it, and I think it was really good for me because it gave me that drive of, okay, I don't wanna be the guy that's stuck behind a computer the rest of my life. I wanna be the guy that is connecting people, networking, going out, and I get to kinda create my own schedule, be my own boss. Like, I don't want to have somebody who is my boss. I wanna be my own boss. So
Mm,
I think that part was really good for me.
yeah. Yeah. It teaches you what you don't want to do for the rest of your life, which can be really helpful.
Right.
So clearly, you're a natural networker. You love to meet people and you love to connect. I'm assuming you'd rather be at a coffee meetup talking to someone than behind the desk. Kind
Absolutely.
of made that clear.
Yep.
How do you think that came to be?
Yeah. I think it's just my personality, honestly. I mean, and again, I don't remember this, a lot of the stuff my parents told me, but I was the kid that you didn't wanna be alone with in the elevator because I would just go right up to you and be like, "Hey, what's your name? And tell me about you," or whatever. People are like, "Who is this kid? Why is he talking to me?" But I just have always loved people. I've always been very relational. It's funny too because 'cause I've got a younger brother and he's become a lot more social, but he would probably tell you we're opposites in that area, that he would be fine being by himself. That's why me and my wife operate really well. She would rather be behind a computer all day long and be at home. I wanna be out about seeing people and socializing. So, I think it's just who I am, honestly, and it's really for me with this job in this industry, it's leaning into that and realizing, "Hey, this is what I excel in. I need to focus on those areas. I probably need to have people help me in the other areas that I don't enjoy, the things that I don't like the administrative stuff, like the CRM, like the handling, a lot of the behind the scenes stuff. I probably don't need to be spending a lot of my time doing those things because that's not what I'm really good at. I'm good at the relationships. I'm good at the networking and connecting people. So, I mean, really, honestly, it's just kind of a part of who I am, and I've really leaned into that.
So, what does your process look like as far as forging new connections and constantly being able to meet new people?
Yeah, it differs based off of the clientele. If it's a what we call a COI, center of influence, if I want to get somebody in to be a part of my team of referral partners, it's probably a little different how I go about connecting people. But honestly, man, I just have real conversations with people and I tell them, hey, listen, just like I've helped you out with your financial planning and you see that you're in a better state. I'm sure you know people. I'm sure you have people that are close to you, whether that's family, friends, acquaintances that also need to go through this process and they need to, have me help them with their financial journey as well. Can you connect me with those people? I mean, can you go ahead and just give me three names? And inevitably that ends up happening, it just kind of is organic there. Especially if I've got somebody sit down with me and they're like, Colin, you've literally changed our lives. You've changed our marriage for the better. You've changed our, trajectory. And, they're hyping me up all these ways. I'm like, okay, great. Thanks for all that. Now, can you think of people that also need that experience as well? And of course, while they're talking about that, they're like, oh, well, of course, we want to connect you with these people. So, that's been a huge aspect for me. But also, finding good referral partners has been instrumental for me. It's kinda interesting too because my dad never really focused on this part of the business. His partner, Brad Bertram, who I admire, he's like a big brother to me. He really taught me the importance of having, okay, you need to have these referral partners that not only can you refer people to, but that they are referring people back to you. And don't make it a transaction thing. Make it a relational thing. I wanna see all my referral partners excel. I wanna see them crush it. And so I can't help but refer them business. And then I would say the same with them. I mean, the cool part about it is me and my wife, we love to travel. So I mean, gosh, this year was kind of our year of travel before we start trying to have kids. And so we almost traveled once a month this year. It was probably too much, but we
It's not
had a
too much.
blast doing it and we're big on making memories. And
Mhm.
so the cool thing about this year was I never was really stressed while we were away, even though I knew, hey, I'm not in Chattanooga, I'm not networking, I'm not getting in front of people. I was never really stressed about it because it was inevitable. I would be on one of these trips and I'd get a phone call, or I would get put in a group text, or somehow people would connect me while I was on vacation because I'd built up these really good referral sources. And so I've really focused on taking care of my referral partners because I know they're going to take good care of me as well. Right.
How do you go about building referral partners? What are some of the tools you use for that?
So for my industry, I think it's really important, but really in any industry, you need to find what industries complement your industry really well. And who could you connect with? Who could you see yourself hanging out with, even outside of all the business stuff? Because I think that's the important part that people miss is, you know, it's not just a transaction, it's a relationship you're building with somebody. You're trying to make it to where, I mean, my referral partners, I go and hang out with them we're talking about doing trips together. I mean, like, we've got such a good relationship that pretty much everything just lines up, honestly. And really first finding the industries that line up with you, I think is really important. So for instance, for my very important that I found a good CPA, a good attorney, a good loan officer, a good realtor, good insurance guy. I mean, and obviously there's a lot of other industries as well, but those are kind of my core five, I would say, that I really sought out early on because I went, you know what? Clients are coming to me asking for help in these areas. Those aren't my areas.
Mm.
Those are not things that I'm good at. And so I'm not going to be the guy that's going to sit across the table from a client and say, oh yeah, I'll help you with all this stuff. And I don't really know what I'm talking about with it. Obviously I'm knowledgeable in all these areas, but I'm like, it's not my industry. It's not my job to know every single aspect of this. Let me make a connection instead. And so I think focusing on how can I take care of the clients, that just organically showed I need these 5 industries.
Mm.
And then obviously there's more than that, but those are kind of the core 5 that I've focused on early on.
So you focus on your core 5, and you said, I need to know these 5 professions. So how did you go about finding who would be a good referral partner and who you trusted to send business to?
This one, somebody asked me this the other day, and I'm like, man, I don't even really remember how I got connected with these people. And it's so funny too, because we have such good relationships now. I'm like, how did I even get connected with them? It's funny, kind of like how me and you got connected. So we got connected with Cole, or Cole connected us. But I think a lot of it was stuff like that, where like I met one person who I really liked. I'm like, man, we really jive. We have unique stories that I think line up. I want to do more stuff with them. And then asking them to connect me with people that they knew because they've been in the industry longer than me. So I'm like, can you connect me with people that you trust, that you think would be a good fit for me? So honestly, I just kind of went to people that I already started kind of developing a relationship with and asking them to connect me with other people, as opposed to me just going out and kind of blindly looking for these different relationships. One in particular, my realtor is a fantastic dude. Again, I work with so many different realtors. It's actually become a big industry for me. But my main realtor that I use, I mean, I went to him early on. I said, listen, dude, we are very like-minded. We have very same interests. You're doing your business the way I'm doing my business. We got to work together. Like, I just more or less like gave him an ultimatum. Like, you don't have a guy yet. You don't have a quarterback, a financial quarterback for you. I want to be that guy for you. And I want you to be the guy for me too. And we need to figure out what that looks like. And so I just had a really real conversation. I didn't know what he was going to say. I didn't really know him at that point, but I felt like, man, this guy's going to be a really good fit for what I'm trying to build. We need to make this happen. And of course, when I present like that, he's like, oh, yeah, we need to do this. And it's been crazy the amount of business that we've been able to send back and forth to each other. There's a lot of really cool networking groups out there. I didn't happen to really need networking group to connect me with people just because I've kind of, or I've made my own networking group. I don't have to pay a fee every year to be in this group or have to go by these guidelines of whatever the strict parameters around. I won't say the names of the groups around here, but
If you know, you know.
yeah. But what's been so cool to see is the networking group now I have built around me. It's not this, hey, I sent you this thing of business. Now, where's mine?
Mm.
None of us are doing that with each other. Like I said, I keep using the word organic. It's just very organic. Like, we go to Top Golf and we'll all hang out and it's like, hey man, tell me about your family. Let's catch up. And then it's like, inevitably we'll be talking to catch up. And it's like, oh my gosh, dude, I met this guy the other day and he's a perfect fit for you. Let me connect you real quick. I just remembered that because we're sitting across from each other. We need to get connected. I'm not sitting there asking them for referrals, but it's going to come up in conversation. And same with me. I mean, I'm going to just being in front of them. Oh my gosh, I got to connect you with this one. So I think focusing on the relational aspect is so important when you're building up a good referral base, a good networking group.
So when you're first getting started and, obviously the money's not really rolling in, like you just spent, I'm assuming, a decent amount on college and getting all your series and all the time. Cause I mean, you really can't do much when you're studying for those licenses and
Right.
stuff like that. Cause you basically have to give your life away for, from what I understand, a few months, correct? When you're doing that kind of stuff.
I was blessed in that I was working full time while I took the securities exams. But yes, it definitely is a different place than I am now for sure.
So how did you stay with the networking when the money wasn't coming in? Kind of what I want to get at. Because I know for sometimes for me and sometimes for a lot of times for other people, it's like, I should be making money right now instead of just networking. And I know sometimes even I forget, like when you're networking, you're making money. It's not, a lot of times it's not tonight's money. It's tomorrow's money or next year's money or 10 years from now. So how did you keep your head on straight while you weren't necessarily bringing in the dough?
Yeah, again, it's just part of who I am. Like I just connect people. I love making new connections and new relationship. And so kind of looking back to when I first started, it's kind of cool thinking and see where I stand. So pretty outspoken about this, but I'm a Christian. So everything that I do is going to be kind of obviously from a Christian perspective. But, really looking back, I'm like, man, I see how the Lord really connected and opened these doors. And I didn't even know. Like I just didn't think about it. I just went and did. I think that's the key thing in my business is I just go out and do. I haven't really thought about it a lot. And then it's like, obviously when I'm on a podcast, I'm like, oh crap, I got to sit and think about how did I get here? How am I doing this? And I think that's really good for me to stop and reevaluate. Okay, how am I where I'm at right now? Because you got to figure out what steps have created the success so you can keep obviously mirroring those. But looking back, I was a big sports guy. So played baseball in this area, ended up coaching baseball. So I coached high school and then ended up coaching middle school, did private baseball lessons. And I didn't even think about it, but it's like, if you sit and think now, if you're doing private baseball lessons, the families you're working with probably have some money, right? Because they're paying for, pretty good money for me to coach their kids. And it clicked with me. Oh my gosh, obviously, this is what I'm planning on doing. I need to go ahead and start setting the precedence with these families of, hey, I'm not licensed yet. I'm not here yet, but let me let you know what I'm planning to do. Would you be interested in working with me? And it's crazy. The percentage of the families that I had that conversation with, and I was just very frank with them. I was very honest, like, hey, I can't really help you yet because I'm not licensed. I will be here soon. Would you be interested in sitting down with me when I am? And I went ahead and like planted those seeds, knowing that, hey, I'm not going to make any money off them right now, but down the road, I'm establishing a long-term relationship so they know, hey, I'm not just doing private lessons the rest of my life. That's a right now thing. That's to pay the bills because I'm married and I'm young and I'm trying to just make things work. But really just creating precedence of, hey, this is what I'll be doing. Would you be interested? And it just happened. Like probably 70, 80% of those families that I worked with are now clients of mine. I didn't plan that. I didn't think, oh, I'm going to go into private baseball lessons and then this is going to be my avenue, finding some clients early on. It just happened organically. And so I think what's really key is when you're starting out early on, just go out there and be present, just be in the community, start having conversations with people. Don't keep it to yourself. Like if you're planning on, hey, I'm going to start a business, be very vocal about it. Like share that with people. Make sure they know, hey, this is what I'm going to be doing. If you believe in, can you be a part of this?
Mm, yeah. And it is like from someone who's started a recent new venture in business, like I have some practice because I've tried and failed several times, but now I'm like, you got to share it with everyone. But I know when I first started, it was a thing of like, what if I don't want to share this in case I fail? So then no one knows about it. But I kind of started doing them when I started my life insurance business. I was like telling everybody. I didn't do very well. And I was maybe a little young too. I started when I was like, I think 18, 19 years old, which it's really hard to sell life insurance
Right.
when you're 18, 19 years old.
Yeah.
But that was a lesson that I had to learn and it taught me a lot. But I don't really know where I was going with that.
Well, I'll go off that because I think that's really, really key what you said is, even for me, I had to throw out a lot of head trash of what ifs,
Mm,
What if they say no? What if they laugh in my face? What if they're like, "Oh, you're young, I'm not gonna listen to you," whatever. You have to totally just throw out all that head trash because you gotta go into it confident, and you gotta take some shots, you know? Was it the you miss all the shots that you don't take, right, the
yeah.
saying? I mean, that is so true because I've seen it in my business of when I just go put myself out there and when I just at least ask. My dad really used to listen to me. He said, "What's the worst thing somebody can tell you?" It's no,
Right.
really. But really, even that, I've kind of built off that. I'll go, "Okay, Dad, that's a great saying." But even when they say no, it's really not no for me. I'm still
Mm.
probably going to reach out to them again in the future. But again, if you don't ask them, you're never going to know what they say. So the worst thing in that moment that they can tell you is no. But I also know that no right then doesn't mean no forever.
So when someone tells, how do you respond to that?
I'll be honest, I don't get told no a lot. So like I'm a little spoiled. Early on I did, but I think asking them, okay, I don't get abrasive. I don't get defensive and go, why? I'll ask them, okay, sounds like right now timing's not the best. Would you mind if I reached out to you again in 6 months? Would you mind if I checked back in with you in 12 months or in whatever timeline you think? Just so that they know, hey, I'm not just throwing in the towel here. I'm not just giving up on you because I'm confident in what I do. And
Mm.
so I want them to know, hey, even if, let's just say they're working with somebody already and they're like, hey, I'm already working with an advisor. Doesn't mean the conversation is done for me. I'm like, okay, great. And then I start asking more questions. Tell me what your person's doing. Are they doing comprehensive planning or are they just selling products? I start asking and kind of picking things apart. And it's amazing. Early on, I thought as soon as I heard somebody say, yeah, I'm already working with somebody, that meant, okay, I'm done. No more conversation. It's over. But I realized it's so not true because what ends up happening is if I've already established a relationship with a person, they're probably going to listen. They're going to hear me out. They're going to listen to me. And so if I can get to the point where, okay, they share that, hey, we're already working with somebody. Okay, great. Let me ask you some more questions about that. Are you happy? What is it your person is actually doing for you? Whatever. And it's amazing once I start kind of uncovering those things, it starts kind of leading more towards me. And then I end up probably getting the business just because the cool thing about what we do is it's so different from all the other quote unquote advisors out there or wealth managers or whoever, because I'm not out there going and selling stuff. I'm selling myself.
Mm. And so if you had advice to someone who's maybe like a younger or a newer financial advisor, what would you say for them, especially if there's pressure on from their organization to sell? What would your piece of advice be to that person?
Hmm. That's a tough one because coming into this, I just never really had to sell. It was more of a, let me tell you about our process. Let me tell you about the service that we offer. We're more service oriented. So, I mean, man, that's tough. I wouldn't do well with that. I've met a lot of advisors, guys that are older than I am, who've kind of switched careers because they felt so pressured, honestly, not right about what they were selling, who they were selling it for. But of course, they had to make a living, right? And so there's a lot of pressure there. Man, my advice is you need to believe in what you're selling. And if you don't believe in it, you probably need to find somewhere else to be, or maybe even another industry. And if you can't fully back it up, if you're not doing that same stuff, probably even for yourself, but you're going out and telling somebody else, hey, you need to do this, that's tough. I mean, so what I've seen for me personally is I fully believe in our process. I mean, I'm all bought in. I told you I'm very bullish on what I do. And so that allows me to go out and I'm not salesy. I don't have to be. And I actually probably even sometimes stray too far away from the salesy side to where I probably undersell myself or undersell things because I'm so focused on the relationship. And so my advice would be if you're in a position where it's like, I'm having to sell these things, I don't really agree with it, I'd evaluate. Do
Mm.
you want to do that the rest of your life? Is that very fulfilling? Because again, this is our livelihood, but if you're miserable doing it, is it worth it? Is it worth the money? You need to be able to enjoy what you do. And the cool thing about what I do is, man, you probably hear this. I'm super passionate about what I do because I know it's making a difference. I'm not having to force anything. I'm not having to sell anything. And so I would just encourage people, man, if you're not enjoying it, I would do a check.
I like that. So when you have someone who's a client and they've been on for, say, 4 years, what does your internal process look like to stay in touch with your current clients?
This is an area my wife is really helping me with. So she kind of runs my CRM, my database, my reminders, and she checks in with me and obviously reminds me because, yeah, I mean, when you start building up a pretty big book of business, it's hard to keep up with everything. You have to have good systems in place. And I realized that early on as like I was not the average advisor, year one, year two, I was ahead. And so I realized, okay, I've got to hone in on these processes and these systems because if I don't address this now, it's going to get out of hand and people are going to start slipping through the cracks. And that's when the business obviously starts failing. And so I was like, we got to go ahead and start thinking about these things early on and getting those good practices in place. And so honestly, my wife really helps me with all the check-ins and the reminders. And again, because I'm staying in constant communication with my clients, it's not just a, hey, I see you once a year or whatever. I'm trying to stay in touch with them multiple times throughout the year just to check in because obviously the market's ebbing and flowing and very volatile and we don't really know what's going to happen. And so I want to make sure that I'm not the advisor that's staying away from them when the market's down. No, I'm getting in front of my clients when the market's down. I'm having the intentional conversations. I'm not running from them because I want to stay out in front of things. I want to make sure that they're taken care of. So to do that, you have to have good systems and processes in place. Like it is so crucial.
So you can go into this if you want to, or if it's kind of like a trade secret, you don't have to. But like, what are some of the things you do to stand out as an advisor and to keep that connection fostered?
Well, like I said, I am very relational. And so I have a lot of touch points. Obviously, I'm reaching out to people to get lunch, to get coffee, to have a meeting, but also I do a lot of events and parties and baseball events. I'm a big baseball guy. So I go to the Braves games. I take people to the Braves. I do a box of the Lookouts. I do Top Golf. I do golf tournaments. I mean, I'm doing things that I know, number one, my clients have interest in and they enjoy, but also it's just keeping that relationship going because again, I want to make sure they know, hey, you're priority number one. It's not me. It's what do you enjoy? How can I keep bringing value to you? That's the biggest thing is if I'm not bringing value to people, then I don't have a job.
Mm.
You know, I'm showing people here's my value and I have to continually show that obviously, multiple times a year. So, those are just a few of the things that I do, but just again, very relationally focused things. And that's another area that my wife really helps me with is the planning and the background in these events as I'm going out and I just go meet with people and don't really think about it.
Yeah. Yeah. So it sounds like for you, your teammate, your
Yep,
wife
absolutely.
is absolutely important in your business. So for someone that maybe doesn't have that teammate, like Haydynn right here, you know, was your wife always involved in your business or was there a point in time when you were kind of trying to go at it alone?
Yeah, again, my situation is a little different because I did get married young and she pretty much was with me from the beginning. I mean, when I took my series 7 to 66, which was just absolutely hell. Like I hate taking tests and I was a bear to be around when I was taking them. She put up with me and she did great and supported me. But I mean, honestly, before I was working in the industry, I just didn't have my own book of business. I didn't have my own practice at that point. So it's just a little different. I mean, she's seen it from day one to where it is now. And she's kind of supported me and been my like you said, my teammate throughout all that. So I would say for those like yourself that don't necessarily have a life partner or spouse, while you're running a business, find people that you can trust, find people that are successful or are doing things well, and surround yourself with those people. Because I think that's, as business owners, man, you quit however many times the first year, you quit 12 times the first year in your head, you quit 7 times the next year, and then 5 times, then 3 times, and then it's okay, you're good. Find those people that keep your head up when things are tough, because you're going to inevitably face hardship. It's just part of being a business owner. A lot of people don't do it because there's a lot of risk involved. There's a lot of scariness with it. And so most people feel safer and more comfortable with, you know what? I want W-2. I want, this nice salary, and I know exactly what I'm going to make every 2 weeks or every week. And that's tough for us because we don't know. It's so sporadic, and it's just there's a lot of risk involved to it. But you've got to surround yourself with people when it is tough that encourage you and uplift you and keep you going, as far as, hey, keep up the good fight. That was who my wife was for me. I mean, she was in the background. She couldn't really get into the trenches with me because she's not going out and meeting with people with me. I mean, that's on me. But what she did help me with is when I came home, it's asking me, hey, how was your day? Hey, tell me about some of the stressors. And just having that safe space to talk through. And then it also encouraged me, like, hey, you know what? It's going to be okay. I heard that a lot, Leon. And so I think if you don't have necessarily a teammate or a spouse or a partner, find other people that hey, this person, they'll keep me accountable.
Yeah.
This person, they'll uplift me.
Going through your process of starting, so you started when you were 20.
I was 20. Well, okay, so in the business, technically 19. Yeah. But with my own book of business, I was 22.
Okay. So starting at 22, obviously, kind of like life insurance, financial planning can be seen as one of those industries where it's like the person needs to wear a suit and they need to have been doing this for 20 years and they've seen the market cycles and everything. Obviously, you grew up with your dad doing this, but did you have any other mentors, anyone else who was pivotal in helping you figure out the ropes and figure out how to address these issues of, like, I'm 22 years old and I'm telling you, Mr. 50-year-old billionaire, how to manage your money? Like, how did you go about mentally quantifying that, and was a mentor pivotal in that?
Absolutely. Yeah. Multiple mentors, and not even just my industry specific, but just other business owners, other successful people that I surround myself with, just encouraged me, and they saw potential in me, and they wanted to obviously get that out of me. And so, I've got a guy that's in Memphis that's been an advisor for 25 years, very successful. There's a lot of people that have been involved. I mean, my dad's been one of them, of course. His partner's been one of them. Like I said, he's like a big brother to me. But, I think the biggest thing is, even if you don't necessarily have a ton of people around you, just having that fire inside, hey, I'm going to make this work. I'm going to make this happen. And I'll be honest, like, yes, I had these amazing mentors and these people that encouraged me. But one thing I really admired that my dad and his partner did, because obviously they were working together years before, I came into the practice, but they wanted me to get kicked in the nuts early on. They more or less were like, hey, you need to go out there and be a lone wolf and figure some of this stuff out on your own. And so I think, looking back, I am where I am because I wasn't coddled. I wasn't taken, hey, let me hold your hand through everything. I had to figure it out, Yeah, I was 22 years old, and it was tough sitting in front of people and being like, oh crap, this person's probably thinking I know nothing. I don't know what I'm talking about because I'm young. But again, throwing that head trash out of, you know what? I went to school for this. I've been around this my entire life. This is what I've studied. This is what I'm certified in. I know what I'm talking about. And having that confidence of, it don't matter if this person's 30 years older than me. They're coming to me. They're sitting at this table with me because they don't know everything. And I can bring value to that. I can help them with that. It doesn't matter what my age is. And so I think, looking back, my dad and his partner, Brad, they really helped really empower me of like, hey, dude, You got to figure some of this stuff out on your own. Good luck. And
Yeah.
so, but I mean, again, from the beginning, I'm not going to say I was by myself the whole time. There were many times that I went out and found the business or found the potential client and brought them in the office. And then it's like, okay, I am still learning a lot of this stuff. There is a lot of complexities here. Dad, do you mind sitting on this meeting and just listen to me? Make sure that I'm saying everything right. Hey, Brad, do you mind, being a part of this meeting? I want to run it. I want to be able to have the conversations, but just be a fly on the wall. Just make sure I'm not saying anything that's from an early on. They were like, dude, you got this. Like,
Mm.
we're hearing you. We're listening to you. But it kind of helped to know, hey, I've got a support system. I've got somebody here in the meeting that if I were to say something wrong, they would step right in. They'd make sure, hey, okay, Colin, this is outdated, or maybe this is a newer concept. So here's actually that's how this works. And so I
Mm.
knew, hey, I've got a backup system to where I can rely on their judgment with this stuff.
Yeah. I've met a lot of financial advisors being in all the networking circles that I'm in and like going to all these different events. And I'm one of those people, especially like early on in my networking journey. It's a little bit less like this now, but I'll pretty much take coffee with anybody. And so I met with probably like 4 or 5 different financial advisors. And as I mentioned earlier, the common theme that I found is like it's someone that has the NW on their card or they're under some flag, whether it be Thrivent or Primerica or whatever it is. From you going and starting your own thing, how do you think that's differentiated you from those people? And are you happy you went that route, or do you feel like there were challenges that could have been avoided if you hadn't have done that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think you run the issue of captive versus non-captive, and most people you meet with they're captive to a company. Like they have to sell that company's products. They have to do business with that company. And what I realized early on was, hey, you know what? I want to have full access to do whatever I want for the client, for the client's best interest, right? And so I don't need to be captive to a company to where I can only, hey, you know what, Mr. and Mrs. Client, this company's not the best fit for you, but sorry, it's all I offer. So it's either this or you got to go work with somebody else. I didn't want to have those conversations. And so I think that's another area that I've been able to differentiate myself is I can take somebody to whoever if it's a fit. We got to make sure it's a good fit. And that's the difference between, like I said, I kind of said, quote unquote, advising. Anybody can advise anybody. I can advise you, hey, you need to buy this, this, this. And you got all these influencers and whatever. Now they're advising people, right? The difference between that and comprehensive financial planning is, hey, you tell me what you're wanting to do. You tell me what you're wanting to accomplish. Tell me your goals. Tell me your dreams. Tell me the things that maybe even keep you up at night that you're worried about. Let's address those things and let me help you plan all these things out through taking you through a process to where your numbers, your data, that tells us what we do. It's not me. I'm not making up stuff. I'm not selling you stuff. It's based off of what is it you're wanting to do. And I've really, again, like I said, I've really leaned into that because I know I'm doing things different. And that I do think that's where I've seen some early successes. There's not a lot of people doing it like this. There's
Mhm.
not a lot of people who are being objective. I mean, that's just such a key word in our industry. People want objectivity. They want to make sure, hey, this person is not sitting across the table, lying to me because they want me to go in this certain thing. I need to know I can trust this person. And my clients know they can trust me because I'm not making it about me. I'm making it about the clients.
Yeah, yeah. So, are you a mentor to anyone? Like, do you have mentees under you?
Yeah.
Okay, so can you tell me about how you decided I want to mentor this person? Like, I see they need my help. Did they come to you? Did you go to them? How did that relationship form?
Yeah, there's several I'm working with right now. It's funny because sometimes I pinch myself. I'm like, why am I mentoring? Like I'm young, I'm newer in the industry. Why am I mentoring people? But then I have to remind myself, okay, I can't think like that. I got to think that I'm like 10 years in because that's really kind of where I'm at, even though I'm really not 10 years in. And so seeing what's worked for me, I can't help but share that with other people because I want to see other people have success, especially guys that I'm meeting that are super sharp and they have the good qualities or they want to make sure that the clients are taken care of or they just want to help people. I'm like, okay, I want to see them succeed. I'm not a huge book reader, but a dear friend of mine actually referred this book to me called The Go Giver. I don't know if
Hmm.
you read The Go Giver.
Yep.
I really relate to the character in the book called the connector. That's who I want to be, as the connector. But just really reading that book made me realize, hey, me doing what I'm doing, me, finding success, it's not all about the money. It's not all about the fame or whatever you want to call it. It's about how can I impact more people. And so that doesn't just mean people that I'm obviously personally working with as clients, but also how can I impact other people who are wanting to get into this business as well. And so I've had so many people pour into me and teach me and give me their trade, quote unquote trade secrets. How can I not do that for somebody else? I'm not going to let that line stop with me. I'm going to continue to pass that on to the next generation. And so there's multiple guys that I'm meeting with right now, and they're like, it's so funny. I met with this guy at Chipotle a couple months ago, and I start kind of telling him, here's the specifics on what I've done. And he's like, Collin, I feel bad that you're telling me like all your trade secrets. Are you sure you want to share this with me? I'm like, dude, it's not even a secret. Like, yeah, I'm doing it different, but really it does not affect me at all. Like, I'm not afraid you're going to come gobble up all my business, whatever. There's so much business to go around. I'm not fearful of that, but I do want to see you succeed. And these are some areas that I know that have helped me. And these are some areas that I've actually seen success in. So how can I not share that with you? So, I mean, I'm definitely very passionate. Obviously, not just working with clients, but just anybody. I mean, I coached kids, so like I've got that coaching aspect in me too. But I love sitting down and sharing, hey, here's what has worked for me here. And here's some things to avoid. Make sure you don't do these things. I'm going to save you a lot of heartache, a lot of
Mhm.
trouble early on if you can make sure you avoid these things. Because again, my heart is, hey, how can I make an impact on people?
Are you looking for any employees right now?
Not currently, but potentially. So, like I said, my wife's working with me, and I also have some other staff in the office that help me with a lot of my paperwork. And I'm actually having a meeting today with the partners to figure out some things there. But potentially, if my wife gets pregnant in the next year or so, might be looking for somebody else that she could train, because I don't envision her doing this the rest of my life, or her life and our marriage. She enjoys it, but also I know being a mom is a job in and of itself. And so, while I think she could probably balance both, there's probably going to be a need there. So, yeah, I mean, I guess this could be a great call for any office assistants or anybody wanting to get into this industry.
Well, I know that some people listening to this may be interested in hearing that you don't do things the quote unquote traditional way. It's like you're very relational focused. And I know like whenever I was looking for jobs, if I heard a podcast like this, I'd be like, I want to work for that person. So that's the only reason I asked that.
No, I appreciate that.
Yeah. Let's see. We're coming up on our time here. So I want to think about the last question I would like to ask you. And I'll go ahead and ask the last question that I usually ask my guest. And this is like, can you think of one person that's really just affected, like you met them and this affected the trajectory of your business and life and the quality of it?
Oh, God. It's hard to think about one person, man.
You're not going to get a slap on the wrist for not including someone else, but I know it is difficult.
I mean, it's a really great question, because it's like, I mean, we talked about earlier that I've had so many people impact me and my business. I mean, I feel like just my story, obviously, my dad has been the biggest person, because it's just ingrained in me at this point. Like, I've been around it for so long, but it could have gone negatively, right? If
Mm.
I had seen him not take care of my family, or not be at home present for us, or not be taking care of clients, then I probably would not have wanted to get in this business, to be
Mhm.
quite honest. But because he managed it so well, and because I saw him have success and him take care of people, I'm like, okay, I actually want to do that. I want to make sure I'm doing the exact same thing. So I would say probably my dad.
Awesome. It's really, I feel like that story is kind of rare a little bit because most of the time, as you mentioned, the story goes, I love my dad, but he was out working 12 hours a day, wasn't super present,
Right.
and I didn't want to be like that. So that's why I became an entrepreneur. And so it's really fascinating to me to hear your story of your father being that example of being the dad that you needed and being able to provide for you and the industry that he was in being something that allowed him the freedom to be able to provide that experience as a child for you. So
Yeah.
that's really cool. You got to have that. Yeah. And so if someone is interested in doing something similar to what you do, what's the first step that they would take?
Go out and just start meeting with people. Start developing a network, developing relationships. I tell people just go find a local coffee shop that you can go sit at, hang around. Obviously, you got some local listeners, but Oaks Coffee House, shout out to them. They're amazing. It's the best coffee. But I used to just set up shop there, and that was like my second office. And it was inevitable. You start meeting people there that are just coming in and getting coffee. Maybe they're doing their work from there as well. And I got a lot of clients from Oaks just because I was there. I was present. I was meeting people. So I would say find a spot, find a groove, find an interest that you have, get really plugged in there, get really involved, and start developing a lot of the relationships there. And that'll really set you up for success because, again, I think this business is so relationship focused. You're not going to have success if you sit and wait on the business to come to you.
Mm.
You're not, you got to go out there and do and be present and be yourself. Don't put on this mask of somebody you're not, because even if you pick up a client that way, I mean, you're going to put that mask on every single time you meet with them. So make sure you're being authentic for every single person you sit down with, because it's just, it creates so much more simplicity and just enjoyment for what you do.
That's a great way to end off the episode. Some great advice. Well, you guys have been listening to the Art of Connecting podcast. Again, this is your host, Haydynn Fike here. And I just want to take a second and thank you so much for listening to the podcast. This has started as a passion project, and it's turned into something that just brings me so much fulfillment and joy. And one way you can help me is to go and leave a 5-star review. So if you're on Apple Podcasts, you scroll down to the bottom and leave that 5-star. If you're up on Spotify, you can just click that follow button and leave a review right next to it. Collin, if someone wants to reach out to you, has some questions, or maybe wants to do business together, what's the best way to do that?
Either over phone number or email.
If you want.
Email is going to be Collin, COLLIN, at BD, B as in boy, D as in dog, planningpartners.com. Partners with an S on the end.
Fantastic. All right, guys. We'll reach out to Collin if you need any help, and we'll catch you on the next episode. Thanks for coming on.